like I said, you have your communities that are Pennsylvania. They're scattered through all over the like Berks County, Montgomery County, and stuff like that. You got your communities which are classified as Pennsylvania Dutch, but then when you get beyond that, they aren't classified as Pennsylvania Dutch. So where do you lose it? And also by being getting expanded, you no longer follow your old Pennsylvania way of doing things, because modern things have come along, different cookings have come along. People have married into families and bring their cooking ways along in and stuff like that, which would be a good example of the Yoder family, where we would always get together at Christmas. The Colts would get together every Christmas, and then they got so big where everybody had their own children and stuff like that. So we started meeting as families. So my family would always get together, but eventually it got to the point then where they started marrying outside the Franconia area, which then brought in a whole new group of people and a whole new type of cooking and stuff like that. And so it got to the point eventually where the Yoder family itself did not get together at Christmas, because here you had, like for instance, my brother Roy and his wife Sandy. Well, do you only go to the Yoder for Christmas? Don't you go to the Handriches for Christmas? What do you do? You have to stick to the Yoders. And so then we would like meet every other year or something like that, until then it got to the point where the families would get so big that you had to rent a place in order to meet, because the big houses where they used to live in, we didn't live in it anymore. And so you had to change it. But then along came the different foods, and weren't Dutchified anymore. I mean, Sandy, she was from Michigan, so she definitely was not Pennsylvania Dutchess. All right, now, difference between what? Pennsylvania German and...
Well, no, just in general, like, well, I'm interested in knowing what you consider to be a Dutch, but you're kind of touching on that, because I kind of have a hard time differentiating between the Pennsylvania Dutch and maybe, especially historically, like Pennsylvania Dutch between other colonials. And like, I know things that make Pennsylvania Dutch could be the food or traditions surrounding holiday religion, and then the language. But like you're saying, like, we're losing the language and starting off, and then all these other things. So when I'm just, who is Pennsylvania Dutch now? Like, that's kind of what I find it hard to look at something and say that is Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yeah, you can't, unless you really experienced it, you wouldn't know whether it was that or not. You mean, well, how would you know? We did a lot of things differently, and yet we didn't. I grew up where I didn't grow up poor. We never had any money. We weren't poor. I don't ever remember going hungry. We always had clothes. Most of my clothes were handed down because I had a cousin older than I am, and they had more money than we did. We always had food to eat. We always had clothing to wear. And we would go out once, twice a month. We as a family, there were 6 of us, went out to eat at a restaurant. Now, how they could afford it, I don't know, but they did. And so I was always brought up that the first thing you do when you buy something, you check the price. That's the very first thing you do. You check the price. And you usually always buy the cheapest. It's not the best quality, but it's the cheapest, because that's what you do. You buy the cheapest. And they were very frugal people. And so you would do most of your own repairs. You would do your automobile repairs and stuff like that. You did yourself, because that's the way you were.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch your money. There were very few people who just go out and, I had a cousin, the Longacres, which was the Longacre we'd like to go. Jiggs, unfortunately, was Jiggs, Buddy, Co-op, and I grew up together. They two were older than me, but I grew up with Buddy all my life, the father of Salvage Dogs. But anyway, that was part of being Dutch, was you would save everything that you could. Your food and stuff like that, you grew your own food, most of them. And then what you would do before the day of the freezer, you would can everything, which is known as canning or jarring. A lot of times it was called jarring. You jarred peaches, you jarred this, because it was done in jars. And you always did, like Mom and I don't know the others, I'm talking about my family now. They would, every year, Mom would go to Gilbertsville Auction. Now that no longer is in existence. I guess York has a farmer's market. Well, we would always call it the auction.
Oh, really?
Where you had, I don't know how many vendors there. A lot of them, a lot of meats. And in the summertime, you had watermelons, potatoes, cantaloupes, all that stuff. And these guys would come in here with a truckload. These guys would come in here with a whole truckload of watermelons. They would set up a stand just to sell these watermelons. And they would holler, buy a watermelon. And you would go there and you'd, okay, we'll buy from this guy. So you bought a watermelon. Then what you did is they would ply it. They would cut a triangular piece in the top and pull the piece out. So you'd taste it and check it if you wanted it or not. And they did with cantaloupes, potatoes. People would come there with a whole truckload of potatoes. They would sell you the potatoes, but they would be in a basket. Then they would put them in a big paper bag. But what would happen is you had this you'd see these baskets of potatoes, and you had nice big potatoes on the top. They looked nice. Then when they would dump them in your bag, they would dump them real fast. Then the big ones, and the small ones get in first, and the big ones would come on the top. That's the way they do it. And Daddy, my daddy being the way he, you know your granddad. He said, okay. So he'd go to the auction, he calls it the auction. You'd go to the auction with a great big basket on his arm. That would hold a whole basket of potatoes. So he'd want to buy a basket of potatoes and tell the guy, no, we'll put them in the bag. Well, he said, you got the big potatoes on the top, little ones on the bottom. No, we don't. He said, don't. I said, all right, dump them in there. And he did. So Daddy got home and he checked them, and a bunch of little ones on the bottom and the big ones on the top. He went back. He took the basket back to the guy and showed it to him and said, well, what do you want me to do, hit you? I remember that. But they would like apricots. They would go look to different places where they could get it the cheapest. They would buy a whole box of apricots, which that big and about that thick, I don't know how many. And she would can apricots. You would go out and pick wild strawberries. There were areas there where the fields would grow, the strawberries would go wild. Did you ever pick them?
Not the wild ones.
Yeah.
No.
So, and people, families who go out to these places would have a field where there were wild strawberries. And they were like BBs and peas is what they were, but boy, they were delicious. Oh, they were a better strawberry than the regular ones that you buy. Aww. And then part of our job was to pick these tiny little berries off, and then she'd make jam, strawberry jam with the wild strawberries, and wild strawberry pie. There was nothing like wild strawberry pie. Elderberries. You know what elderberries are? Right. Elderberry jam and elderberry pie. Those were good. Cherries. Every farm had cherry trees on it. Well, you went out and picked cherries. And you used to have an agreement with, we had one place where we would usually go to pick cherries, where we had an agreement with them that we would pick all these cherries for ourselves, but they would get half of them.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
And they had you had your black cherries, you had your red ox hard, your red sweet cherries, your sour cherries, and you had to squeeze the pit. I'll show you something. You didn't have many stands like we have around here. Yeah, a lot of these guys would grow the produce and stuff like that for wholesalers, for the stores. Then peaches. Where I grew up, we had I don't know how many orchards for peaches. And my mom would work right. You go, a lot of the ladies, they go pick peaches, and then in the evening they pack what they call peaches, where they would pack them in a baskets and long process and take them to Philadelphia to the docks down there, where the people, where these wholesalers would buy them. And you had truck patches. My mom had a truck patch. It was huge, and you grow everything.
Wait, what is it?
What you call a truck patch. It was a garden, a monster garden, where she would plant all the seeds. She'd go out there and hold this thing in the hot sun.
Do you know why it was called a truck patch?
No, I don't. It was huge. And she'd buy the seeds. She'd send for the seeds. The seed companies would send you catalogs. Then she'd go through it and order what you would. They'd send it to her by mail. Then she'd go out and plant the seed. And then would harvest it. Then there was, she would plant peas. And the worst job was to pull the pea vines out after they were over, because then she would plant corn. And this was all done, this was all jarred, all canned. There was no such thing as a freezer. You never, if food froze, it was ruined, you know. And then the guy in Bally is a town I grew up in, which is outside of Boyertown. I went to Boyertown High School. Started a freezer. And he'd rent out drawers, big drawers in this freezer where you would freeze your stuff. And then eventually you got freezers in your house.
And what is that you brought here?
All right, now this was my wife's father's. That's a cherry pick, a stoner.
Oh.
This shit, I don't know why he put that there, but you would drop the cherries in there and push the stones in.
Oh, that's cool.
Otherwise you'd sit there with a big dish, you know, and you'd squeeze these stones out. Oh, that, and picking wild strawberry, and picking off the strawberry. Oh,
Hard work.
I hated the truck patch. Yeah, we had my mom would work, a lot of ladies would work at these farmers, picking peas, string beans, strawberries. The guys would go big. Solomon Gale and Harvey Fox. Harvey Fox was a neighbor next to ours. He grew strawberries, and he'd pick the strawberries, and the guy would come from Philadelphia. I think what his name was. Come up from Philadelphia and buy the strawberries. You'd get paid like 2 or 3 cents a box, a strawberry box, for picking them. And I don't know what that guy's name was, but Harvey Fox had a temper. And I remember he was so mad at this guy. He was cheap. He didn't want to pay him for the line. He was so mad at him. He said he's going to kick him in the ass and both feet at the same time. That was part of our culture. Was you get everything as cheap as you got. And then the Zerns, the auction changed to Zerns, I don't know how many years ago. It closed up a couple months ago after, what was it, 90 years or something like that. Wow. It was everybody would go. You'd go to the auction. That's where you went.
Did you pick dandelions?
Oh yeah. You pick dandelion.
For dandelion wine, or?
No, you would eat dandelion, the weed, the thing itself.
Yeah.
The weed, the weed itself. You would also fry the flower, the dandelion flower.
Oh, really?
And some would make dandelion wine. Yeah. Now Ruthie's mother would fry dandelion flower.
And then just eat it?
Yeah, you just ate it. Now the dandelion they would make with a hot bacon dressing that you put on it. I never cared that much for it.
Did anyone in the Culp family make dandelion wine?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
Grandpa Culp maybe did. I don't know. I know we went through this at one of the reunions where I took a jug. Were you there?
I don't remember that. Sounds interesting.
Well, I made it when I was little with my dad, but I don't know if he made it growing up, but we made it. But I'm just...
Do you remember what it tasted like?
Really bitter, I think. I don't know. It was so long ago. Oh, that's funny.
That jug is worth money. I took that to the Culp reunion one time, and they were saying about how Grandpa used to keep... My grandpa was a preacher. He used to keep some kind of wine, and even though it was forbidden to drink. My children do. I don't drink, and Julia doesn't. No, not for conscience sake, but I will not drink it because of the fact that back in the Culp, which was my mother's side of the family, there were a couple of alcoholics in it. That I bought at Grandpa's sale. I paid 35 cents for that thing. And I saw it advertised in one of these magazines, you know, one like it. That was worth money then.
Yeah.
And that was back in the 54, 55
Yeah.
when I bought the thing. But that was part of being frugal. You got everything you can for nothing, and you saved everything that you could. And you definitely did not waste. You did not waste money. Another question.
Well, I guess a very simple question is what was your favorite thing to eat growing up in Pennsylvania Dutch? And then also now, what's your favorite?
You know, I thought a bit the other day somebody had mentioned about their favorite food. Growing up, there were several things that were very seasonable. One of them was strawberry pudding. Now that's in, did you read any of Cindy's book at all?
I didn't know. I am going to read it though. I have a whole list of books I'm still trying to get through.
Yeah. It was only made with strawberries. It was a kind of a yeast dough, very, very heavy. It's a very heavy dough that was made like a jelly roll. And instead of jelly, you rolled strawberries in it. You rolled it up and steamed it. And then you ate it with sweet milk, milk with sugar in it, you know. That I haven't had that for years.
Wait, did you have that is it in your book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm reading your book next.
Yeah, I'll be the right. Isn't it? Don't you have a picture of Grammy making it?
Yeah, actually I have a picture of her making it. I'm not sure if I have the recipe in there.
I'm not sure. The other thing which,
I have to look at it.
the other thing which was strictly Pennsylvania Dutch, which only my grandma Culp used to make it, and my Aunt Sarah. But my Aunt Sarah was the oldest, second oldest of the children in the Culp family. She would do a lot of stuff like called schnitz and gnep. Did you ever hear it?
I have. I haven't never had it, but I have heard of it.
That was actually, you've heard of it.
I don't remember it.
Schnitz and gnep.
Tell me what it is.
Schnitz were apples. The apples would be schnitz. They're cut. You know. Now, matter of fact, you aren't old enough. Do you remember Mrs. Smith's pies?
Yeah.
They were made in Pottstown. Mrs. Smith was a commercial pie maker for me. She still made pie. When I lived at Spruce Lake yet, they'd get her pies that were frozen, you know. Boy, she made the best lemon pie. But anyway, they had ladies that their job was to schnitz apples. Schnitz, cut them. You know, they would cut them in wedges, like, for their apple pies. Schnitz, the apples, and gnap was the bacon that was not sliced. You could buy bacon in the hunk, and it would be in pieces maybe about that big square that you would cook with and noodles, schnitz and gnap and noodles. They would make a yeast ball, which we call noodles. And this was very, very, almost like a sponge, you know. And you cook those three things together. And you ate it with milk. Even that fatty, greasy bacon stuff, you ate with milk. That I loved. I just really loved that. But I love pot pie. My daughter makes some good, but I only get it once in a while. I love beef stroganoff. That would be probably one of my favorite dishes.
That's nice.
Yeah, beef stroganoff.
Did you have Hog Maw growing up at all?
Hog Maw?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that pig stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's another one of mine. We haven't had that for years. I haven't had pig stomach for years. Matter of fact, I'm going to get, after reading your book, we're going to make one. Jody's going to make one for me. Yeah, we used to have that at Thanksgiving.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the family would get together.
When you were younger, or?
Yeah, well, even when I was married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they would make pig stomachs. I don't know how many they would make, but we no longer get together at Thanksgiving. So yeah, pig stomach was
instead of turkey.
What?
Instead of turkey, or also with turkey?
Instead of
so
turkey.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you eat any other meals that had different organs in them?
That would be
Scrapple.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, scrapple definitely. Ring bologna. You know what ring bologna is?
No, I've never heard of it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they make
I
it
don't
around.
actually know what it's
You
made
can
of.
buy it in the store.
Yeah.
It's about that long, about that big round. It's usually
Yeah.
Yeah. My father went to market. Now going to market is like your York farmer's market or something. He went to Philadelphia for his cousin who was a butcher. And did all his own butcher and other stuff. And they sold meat. That's all they sold was meat. And there were a lot of them in Philadelphia. There were a lot of them in this farmer's market. There's a lot of them at Zerns, Ruts, a couple too, where they do their own butcher stuff. My dad went there for them. And then he would bring home meat sometimes. You know, we ate good meat at home.
Oh.
We did. He even brought brains home one time.
Really?
I didn't like that. Got kidney, I think, and stuff like that. But yeah, now of course sauerkraut. That's a German Dutch thing, well known all over. Anything that was.
What about Lebanon bologna? I grew up with that anyway.
Yeah, that's a pretty well known. Of course, your hot dogs, which is a American thing, and you don't eat put ketchup on hot dogs.
What, horseradish?
No, mustard.
Okay.
And maybe relish and onions, but not ketchup. What did my mom use? Oh, there was something that I grew up that my Grammy Colt used to make once a year was corn pie. Now I don't know what it was, but it was a big corn pie. That's about all that was in it. It was just
interesting. Is it kind of like thick?
Yeah, I don't remember. That's been what, 80 years ago.
Did you have any like special drinks?
Yes. And that still exists today if you do it. Peppermint water.
Peppermint water.
Peppermint water. That is the best quenching thirst that you can get. It's made with a half gallon of water, about 12 drops of peppermint, essence of peppermint, and about a half a cup of sugar. Tastes like peppermint, but is about the best quencher there is.
Wow.
Peppermint water. The only time you ever got lemonade is if you made your own, and that was the thing you squeeze the lemons to get lemon out of it.
Would you pick the peppermint yourself then? Or would you buy
No,
the
the peppermint, you had to buy it.
Okay.
You had to buy the peppermint. You get it at the drugstore, the price you can buy it.
Oh, wow.
Sodas, the sodas that you bought when I was growing up are not like they are today. They were different. The water is different. You want to go again? Carbonated water, it's different than it is today. It's not carbonated today like it was then. If you would drink a soda and it had oomph to it. But we didn't have very many sodas because we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And they would only cost like 5 cents or something like that. And of course it came in a bottle, and you paid deposit on the bottle. And but no, for thirst quenching, it was either peppermint water or just plain water. And you definitely did not drink soda at the table as a drink like you do today.
At some point, your mom made birch beer.
Oh yeah.
Homemade.
Oh, root beer.
Oh, root beer.
She made birch beer, I think, one time.
Okay.
But root beer, yes. You made your own root beer with an extract. Yeah. Oh,
That was
yes.
so delicious.
That was.
You had it too?
Yeah.
Yeah, root beer.
That's nice. That's my favorite beverage. Well, not my favorite thing to drink, but I like it as a soda. And did you do anything special for holidays? In general, it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, you went to church. You had a church on Good Friday afternoon. You had a Easter morning, definitely. Thanksgiving, you went to church Thanksgiving morning. Of course, yeah. Halloween, here again is this thing of what you believe, what you practice. Don't do as so do as I say. We were not allowed to dress up at Halloween. But we could dress up and go to the neighbors.